Okay, so you s- you're you're a different breed of women. Let's call it what it is. Why is it that you were able to transcend your career when most women from your region, I don't get the same story. But the tripped out part about this is you came from a single family household.
Yes.
I'm not trying to put you on the spot, but
No, all good.
I need to know because I'm getting so many different versions of beautiful women from India that's telling me completely different stories. And here it is. Not saying that the stories aren't valid, but I want to know how you got to be where you was at, where you at currently.
I think it's the feeling and the courage and the confidence on, like, you need to be confident about yourself. And if you want to play the victim, then fine. But you cannot keep playing the victim all the time and you cannot blame everybody else. At some point in life, I think you have to sit back and think, okay, I have the choice. Everybody, and I think it's not just Indian women, but many women all around, they have a choice. They have a choice to walk out, they have a choice to change the job, and most important of all, I feel they have a choice to speak up. And I think that's what I did. If there was anybody else, because I look at my friends around, Indian friends again, their priorities are very different. So when I decided to move to Canada, everybody said, "Are you mad? You have the H1B, like you are living the dream."
What is the H-1B for people like myself that don't know what that means?
Yeah, sure. It's the work visa. So if you've come to the United States as a student visa, the next step after you get your degree is the work visa. And that's something that's very competitive. And now the rules have changed. Back then, when I was working from 2016 to 2019, the rules were, it would be a lottery system, and I think they would issue only 80,000 H1B visas, but the number of people applying for it would be 300,000.
But I
So
noticed, I know you tapped on something. I'm trying to be politically correct here. I'm trying to be politically correct. So let me, forgive me if I say this the wrong way.
no worries.
A lot of the women that I've had on is culture based, but you have changed the culture base to being more of an independent base. So, how difficult is it for a female from India when you talk about regions? Okay, because I'm pretty sure it's huge. That culture belief has to be pretty, let's say, 80, 98.6% of a lot of women that don't think the way you think. So, what message would you give them? Your podcast is about, saying, "Hey, you can do this," but let's get real. When you're embedded with so much culture and religious culture and told this is how it can be, are you going to be turned against? What do you tell somebody like that?
Are you being true to yourself? Or are you faking it just to make everybody else around you comfortable? Because that's what I do. So when I meet my friends and when they invite me over for any religious event or anything, I ask them, do you know the reason why you're doing this? Like, for example, if you exchange rice, there is a whole thing where women exchange rice with each other and it's uncooked rice. And then they exchange some other stuff. When I ask them, do you know why? Like, what's the reason behind you doing this? Yes, you're doing it for, you know, religious reasons, but what's the actual reason? Why is it rice? Why is it not something else? Why is it just women to women? Why is it not men? They don't have an answer. And so to me, it's very astounding. For example, like my mom and my sister, they're religious. My grandma was super religious. She would make us do everything. I went to a Catholic school growing up, both me and my sister. And my grandma, when she would do all the ceremonies at home, because we were kids, my sister and I would sit there and say, "Oh, our Father in heaven." And she would get mad. I'm like, "Why are you mad? Isn't like every religion teaching that there's just one God and everything's the same?" And she's like, "No, you're a Hindu. You're supposed to learn what I'm teaching you, and you're supposed to know all these things." And I'm like, okay. After a while, I stopped questioning people because I just didn't find any rhyme or reason. They were just doing it for the sake of doing. For example, there's this huge belief in the Indian community to not eat non-veg, to not eat meat on certain day, and they give the label of a certain type of god. So if it's like a certain type of god, you're not supposed to eat meat on Mondays. If it's a different god, then you're not supposed to eat meat on Saturdays. And I'm like, okay, there must have been some reason to it back in the day, but I guess they wanted more people to follow. So they just tried to, that's just my theory. But then when I ask myself, I'm like, I don't need to have a religious reason to do something that's going to benefit my health. If I don't want to eat meat on a certain day, I'm not going to eat meat, but I'm not going to put a label on it and say, "Oh, I'm Indian and this God is going to be upset with me if I eat meat today or if I don't eat meat today."
How do you how do you resonate with how are you accepted with because that's and trust me, I have friends that's like that went through the same. I can't mention their names. I remember this one particular person in general. He wanted to marry somebody else. He came to America and wanted to marry somebody. His family, now they're group is it called groupies that they give you?
Yes. Yes.
They came from a lot of groupies, a lot of money. And he was like, "Andre, I don't want to marry her. And I didn't see him for a long time because he went back. 5 years later, I seen him at the Target. "Hey, how you doing? Blah, blah, blah." He remembered me, and it was almost like he was shamed because he had to marry the individual that his family picked out. Now he married her, had kids, the whole 9 yards. So I talked to some other friends that knew him. And it was like he didn't want to marry her, but he had to go with tradition. And I'm thinking to myself, when do you just break the cycle? Says enough
Yeah,
is enough.
exactly. Exactly.
You know. Anyway, so how were you being accepted? With you've changed. It's almost like you became a rebel.
Did. I did because I wasn't getting answers, Andre, and the answers that I was getting didn't make sense to me. And so when I go to meet people, I set boundaries in a good way. I used to suck at doing that, but now I set boundaries. So I tell my friends, if you want to hang out with me, don't use the reason of a religious event to invite me to your place for a lunch or a dinner. If you want to cook, first of all, you don't need a reason. So if you invite me, I'm going to come anyways, but don't have that tag or that religious tag and say, "Oh, it's this festival and I want you to do this." And then, it's that. So I think my friends have understood like this is how I am, and they don't bother me anymore. But yeah, it took a lot of explaining from my end, and my mom still gets angry at me, and if I do certain things. I'll give you an example. What car do you drive, Andre? I know it's a personal question, but
I drive a 370Z Nissan and a 350Z Nissan.
nice. Okay. So my husband was into trucks. And so he got a Dodge Ram, 2 years ago. And my mom was visiting us in Canada. And he got it from the showroom, and it was a used car. But she said, "Hold on. before he even drives it out of the driveway, there is something that I need to do. And she went back inside. She got some turmeric. She got 4 lemons to keep underneath the tires on each side, and like one on each side for each tires. And then she drew something on the car. She got a coconut, and then she just did like that and then broke it, and then prayed something, and she said, "Okay, Simon, now you can drive the car out of the driveway." And I am standing there, I'm like, "What are you doing?" And she goes, "Keep all your beliefs to yourself. I believe in something strongly, so I'm going to do it anyways, and this is for his safety." I'm like, "Okay, so you think 4 lemons and a coconut is going to save him on the 401 when he drives at 90 kilometers per hour?"
Yeah.
But it is what it is. I still get that resistance a lot from friends and family, but I've understood that's only because even they have not been taught to question certain things.